Hello, everyone. Kenyon here, Basketball Rewind, and it's draft talk time, baby. So, yeah, this is the moment that everyone's been waiting for. We've kind of teased out a couple different conversation pieces about draft talk, but this is going to be our first, like, real, true, official draft talk. Instead of giving you little morsels, we're going to just give you, like, a really good, hefty piece of meat. You can chow down on it. Draft talk, baby. So, Coach, how are you doing? Beyond, how are you doing?
Good, man. Can't complain, man. Just having that Super Bowl hangover. I'm straight.
I see. You know, hope everyone got home safe for that night in Philly. We'll just say that. And one thing that was interesting, I mean, we won't get into it too much, but one thing that was interesting about the Super Bowl was, I'm trying to say this in a don't get fired way. The booing side of things was interesting. How you pointed this out to me, and how sometimes the broadcast that you hear is different than the broadcast that you see. The other thing within that, I'll just leave that at that, is the experience of football, like the little bar of them showing the score and how that's transparent.
Yeah,
And so it allows more of the game to be seen. That's really, really neat. I like that.
yeah. A Sports Media Watch podcast with John Lewis mentioned it. Mentioned it today as well too. He had a point about it. About there's a little bit of the transparency, and to your point, it shows more of it.
Yeah.
I talked about this as there's a game that we enjoy playing, and the demo came out, and that is also taking that lead as well.
Yes. There's less noisy overlays, I guess is the proper term. So yeah. Let's just get into it. Today we're going to be talking about Cooper Flagg. We're gonna try to plant our flag as Raptor fans. And no, people, folks, it is not just Cooper Flagg or bust. There are other guys that we will talk about. There are other guys that could potentially be franchise changing or really help our team in a lot of different ways. Obviously, this is coming after the Brandon Ingram deal has been done. We won't get into that today, but we are going to get into Cooper Flagg. Easiest thing to talk about is to talk about Cooper Flagg's measurements. Now, I do not know his weight because the overall, what do you call it, combine hasn't come out or whatever yet. But to me, I'm going to go based on what I've seen at the Team USA practice. This dude is at least 6'8", at least, like a legitimate 6'8". He came into this year 17. He might be 6'9" when all is said and done. Like, he is not a small. He has a grown man's body.
More and more, he's looking more like 6'10" than me. Like
I want to say it,
he's
but
closer
like
to 6'10" or 6'9". Yeah,
I watched him play in the summertime. He's looking almost Anthony Davis in the eye. Like I was like, okay,
yeah, like he is not a small person. He is a big boy. I just say boy only because he's 18 years old. I wrote a lot of notes from before, so I'm just gonna kind of work off that. To go a little bit more into the young man, he's obviously from the state of Maine, which is close to Canada.
Hey man, across the Bay, Fundy, Nova Scotia, where I'm at right now, I'm closer to Cooper Flagg than I ever was before. Right now, if he went back home to Maine, this weekend.
Yes, and he went up this summer against some of the NBA's best, and we saw it. We saw it on full display in the pre-Olympic scrimmage sessions. I mean, of course, at the time he was 17 years old, but he, and you would think he'd look a little bit more raw or whatever, but no, he held his own and was giving it back to them on every end of the ball. Obviously, we're going to do the offense, defense, and that sort of thing, but I think this is really important because NBA vets. It's not like everyone says, oh, it's an Olympic scrimmage, but them vets in the NBA, especially when you're dealing with AD, LeBron, like all those guys, they don't want to get shown up. Like, let's keep it a buck, especially by some random, young 17-year-old kid. That's how they view him. And there was some serious competitiveness there. There were times where his handle was getting pressured by Drew Holiday in some of those scrimmages, and yet he was able to handle the ball pressure under control. He had an ability to push forward into driving areas. He can punch into areas too with the speed, but the speed he's not like De'Aaron Fox, but like He's got speed for his size for sure, and it's speed under control. He also demonstrated a very high level of understanding of the game in terms of even just focusing on that scrimmage, where to cut, when to cut, how to cut. So yeah, I mean that's kind of where like one of the biggest takeaways from then. And then since then, I mean we've seen it on full display. And the other thing is he's gotten better and better as the season has gone on. Coach, did I miss anything? And then if I haven't, please take it away. What are your thoughts on his offense that we're going to beyond, of course?
Well, I certainly think it's improved throughout the year. I'm just looking at even just his 3-point numbers, which I know isn't everything, but we know it's a fairly important metric today. He's at like 36% now from three. There was a time in the year where he was in the late 20s, high 20s, or early 30s percentile or percentage for threes. Now he's almost creeping up to 37%. So that is a statistic that's really improving. I think with Flagg, you're seeing him really get his game in the mid range off the dribble. He's able to pull up for three as well. I know Wemby's probably the best number one prospect of this decade or since LeBron James. I think Flagg, at least in this decade, probably is going to have a chance to be the second best number one prospect of this decade coming. And that's including Anthony Edwards as well. So if Flagg is number two or number three, that's a pretty good number one pick that someone's going to have this year. I've often said, I think two-way guys who play offense and defense at high levels, the versatility, those guys typically win championships. And I think Flagg has a pedigree with his skill set and his size and his frame too. Flagg's listed at 205. Won't shock me come draft time. He's about 215, maybe even closer to 220. He's got a frame that's going to fill out. And I've been told this by a couple of scouts as well. He's a gym rat. You're a gym rat or you're a fat cat. Our good friend Gannon Baker of the show always says. And I think Flagg is a gym rat, and he's got a competitive streak to him that I just absolutely love. There's no motor issues there, right? There's nothing. I don't think there's any mercurial personality about him that we have to worry about. So I think this is just a guy. He loves to hoop and he loves to win.
Your thoughts,
Yeah.
Bjorn?
Well, I mean, Coach summed it up, and I'll just jump on. Jump off from where he just left off. Like his personality to me is the part that strikes me the most about him, man. Like that dude has an intensity and it burns, and you can see it coming out through the screen when you're watching games. He's already even at this age. I remember don't say the knock, but maybe the question mark around him was, oh, can he be a big time scorer? He leads the country, I believe, in scoring at about 20 a game. Okay, like if that ain't saying he's a big time scorer, I don't know what does. I always say my dad and I have a certain way of like working out math. Is if a guy in this case takes a certain average, it's a very rudimentary thing. But if a guy has a certain average in college, add 4 to 5 points. That's probably what his NBA average is going to end up being, due to just more possessions, more possessions, longer game. If he's averaging 28 right now, that means you're looking at likely a 31, 32 point per game score. I don't know if he'll be that high, but at floor, he might be a 28 per game score. I think he's already he's already got the 3-point shot improving right now, and he has no qualms about taking it in pressure situation. We just watched it on the weekend. He hit 2 big ones in this case late in the game. His intensity, I think, and his ability to get to the hoop, he's a big time athlete. I think sometimes people don't really actually mention that enough about him. He's a pretty high end athlete from a standpoint of like what he can do. He can cover ground in a hurry on both ends of the court. So, hey man, I think, I saw my man there, he came back. So, shout out to Dickie V. And Dickie V said, look, man, he's seen all the greats. You mentioned Magic, you mentioned Kobe, you mentioned LeBron. And he says, I see the same thing I saw with those three, I see in this young guy. It's like this dude. I'm not saying it, but we had our friend here, the friend of the show. Tyler Rucker came on a few weeks ago, and when we started discussing him, he referred to like a supercomputer. And at the time, I said, I've already told you guys this before we had the discussion with Tyler. He said, Well, you know who else gets described that way? LeBron James. I think this dude here is going to be the truth. And, to Coach's point, he's already looking like he's bigger than what he was when he came in 3 months ago in Duke. Like physically, when I see him, he looks bigger now than he did, the first day at Duke. Yeah, he's a spectacular talent and prospect, man. Like, boy, believe me, man, I would be sitting easy, with whatever, a pina colada, you name it, boy. If he got, if Adam Silver said, yo, and with the first pick of the draft, ding, 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 I just whoever I heard those words, boy, I might pass out, man. I heard my chime going there, man. I might record that for life as my.
Hey, man, you never know, because knowing this franchise, suddenly you say we have a trade.
No, it ain't happening. We get number one. They can't even screw that up.
Yeah, salute, man. Salute it, man. Yeah, man. That's he's the real deal, man. He's the real deal.
To you and your dad's point, because you mentioned about the 5 point per game shift from college to NBA. So Flagg per 36 is averaging about 22 points per game. He's averaging about 20 on the season. But if you do the math though on that 5 or 6 point swing, that makes him a 25 to a 26 point per game scorer.
I apologize.
I heard it. Yeah. But still though, if he's doing that, plus we know the rebounding numbers and the assists and blocks and steal numbers, that's a friggin' MVP candidate for multiple years to come. Without question it is. If we assume that the numbers are going to translate.
He's already had like a 40-point game, a 30-point game, and maybe that's what they're referring to what he's done this month. But he's been outstanding, and he's getting better, which is what you want to see, right? Like, you want to see a guy like that kind of just keep getting better and better, and he's a gym rat. And it's like, that's what I love about this whole draft, actually. Like, almost all the top guys,
they've gotten better.
There's no question about work ethic or motor with any of them.
No.
You go like about 8, 9 deep, and it's like no one's ever thinking like, it's like, well, it's like, most of them are pretty much like, it's like there's no concerns with that. So, man, he's fantastic. I mean, let me tell you something. For Coach and myself, man, we are Tar Heel fans, man. So this ain't easy for us to say so.
This is true.
I only have one other Dookie that I like, and that's Mark Williams.
Oh man.
Well, who's been involved in his own things, right? His own trade stuff.
Right. That is true. I thought you were going to say RJ Barrett, of course, but
yeah.
He's all right. He's all right.
I enjoy Mark Williams more than I did RJ.
I mean, fair enough. I only have a bias against Gonzaga, but that's just me.
Me too. So I enjoy you on that one too, man. That Gonzaga tax, as they call it.
So, Cooper has been compared overall to a few interesting people. Okay, some of these people are Duke players in recent memory. And it's not to compare him in the sense of like, hey, he's going to be like them, but to show what he's doing relative to some of these other guys. So I'll give you the names. We're not going to go through all of them. But Franz, part of it is his size as well as and everything in like measurables. Scotty Barnes, Franz, Jason Tatum, Paolo, right? So I'm going to focus on the Duke guys just for now, okay? I just compare him to them. I'm going to focus first on your advanced analytics, DPPM, so box plus minus. His box plus minus thus far in the season is 14, okay? By comparison, Jason Tatum's was 8. Okay, Paolo was, I believe, I added a little bit. It was 7.9. Paolo's was 7.8 or 7.7. Sorry, and Scotty Barnes, I believe, was 7.9. He's double that. Okay, he's double that basically. Not quite, but it's getting there, and he's doing it on high usage. He's also assisting at a high level, 25%. So 1/4 of the time he's generating assists. He's a high end rebounder, 20% of the time. Compare that to Scotty Barnes in college. His rebound rate was 9% of the time he was rebounding. I look at Tatum's, right? Tatum's was 13%. Paolo, 13%. This dude just beats everyone in all metrics. And then you look at like how he's improved. He's at 36% on the year now. Above 36% actually from deep. And he just keeps getting better and better and better. His PER much higher than those guys. And by a significant margin. I think offensively he's not elite at a lot of things yet, but he comes in with a very, very high-end foundation, whether it be his post moves, his ability to pass the ball and spot opportunities, but he also has the athleticism to create opportunities. He is different. Defensively is where I want to focus on. Sorry, you were saying.
I'm just saying you're giving comps. I think from a Duke perspective, the guy that might be closest to him, and he didn't have the three quite like him, but from a usage standpoint, is that senior year for Grant Hill.
I was just about to ask you that if you saw. So, do you, when I think of Duke greatness, I think of Grant Hill. No offense to Zion or any of the others.
Well, but
Tatum.
Christian Laettner, come on, man.
Okay, but I know, but Grant. Okay, Grant Hill. Let me ask you: do you see comparisons there, like you had mentioned, to Grant Hill?
Yeah, the way he actually handles the ball at his position, like Grant Hill is pretty much point guard as well as small forward playing for that Duke team, especially at the year once like Hurley and Laettner left. That group when he's like him and the two Hills, like he was the guy that was the focal point on that team, and his usage probably if he had to do for Grant Hill, I suspect would be looking like what his looks like right now because he was Mr. Everything. What he didn't have though that Cooper is showing right now is that 3-point shot.
Yeah, so in his final year he did get it in his final year at Duke. He was shooting 39%, which is crazy. That's Grant Hill. But again, he was at Duke for 4 years.
Right, exactly, right. Because he
grew into that. This guy's coming into it shooting that good.
In year 2, he was like the third option. In year 3, I think he surpassed Hurley as the number 2 option behind Laettner. And then when Laettner left and Hurley left, he was definitely the number 1 option. And I think with him, like his ability to attack the paint, which is what Cooper does, that's the part that reminds me the most about Grant Hill, the first step. Now, Grant Hill's first step is like no one's got Grant Hill first step. Like that first step is one of the best first steps of all time for that position. So I'm not saying he's that, right? Grant Hill jump shot was mediocre and it didn't even matter. It's like, dude, you're still getting beat off the dribble with that crossover. But it's pretty damn good. And he doesn't need much space or room because he's got a bigger frame than Grant Hill. Grant Hill is 6'8". I'm pretty sure this kid's reaching 6'10" by the time they do the measurements in May or June.
He's also averaging like 3 stocks a game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
which is crazy.
That's unbelievable.
I think that's a perfect transition and segue into his defense. His defense is his calling card. I think his offense, really good foundation with a lot of room to grow, but his defense is incredible. He doesn't make a lot of mistakes on that end of the ball. And, again, we could go on and on about him forever on both ends of the ball. But in terms of his defense, I mean, I don't even have to ask about translatable skills because we already talked about a bunch right now. But defensively, just the way that he recovers, if ever beaten, and he rarely gets beaten, is just incredible. Like, it's not I'm using my length to recover. It's I'm catching up to you, getting in front of you, and slowing you down. That's how he's recovering.
Yeah, I guess I'll start this way. Like, I mean, that there's like the part where this is where it really does separate him from a lot of the other guys because his defense, like, I mean, he is, and it doesn't matter, interior or perimeter. He is like a hawk on the ball, and he's in passing lanes. if he's on ball, in this case, point of attack, like and that's where you really start to see his size actually, more so than the offensive end. When he's out there playing some guy, in this case, like a two guard or something like that, he looks like a condor out there, man. Like it's like
Yes.
it's walling up space. It's like, my gosh.
Pterodactyl wings.
Yeah,
Indeed.
It's like, my gosh.
Yeah.
And the thing is, Duke plays a lot on the perimeter on defense too. So like, you can't sleep that if you beat a man, in this case, or one of the Duke players, he's roaming in the background. You have to always keep your head on a swivel because he's coming from behind, a la you know who, the SWAT, if to clean up behind some other mess. But defensively, he really could probably defend at least 4 positions if you had to. He
might be able to even cover 5 if needed.
I
wouldn't put that on him on a regular basis. I heard people say, "Oh, if he gets drafted, he can play." I ain't playing this dude at small center. He can play whatever the hell he wants. Yeah. I'm sorry. Everyone else move aside. Scotty move aside. Brandon move. This is the new sheriff in town. If the Raptors were given the chance to draft him, because he is that special. He really is.
And I think the intangible part of it, which I think I love most about it, is I always say about the intensity he plays with, but also is like he has a certain thing where it's like there's a responsibility in what he expects of himself and his teammates.
Yes.
That game the other night against Clemson, and I think the announcer mentioned it, Dickie V mentioned it. When they're trying to get a stop late in that game, man, he was imploring Malawatch, dude, you need to be here, okay? When this dude turns the corner, the point guard for Clemson, you need to be here. And he was imploring him what he had to do. That's why I like to see that accountability for himself and his teammates. Like, yo, man, because right now, to be honest with you, this team here needs some type of injection of that in their system. There's a lot of nice guys. They're kind of mellow fellas that don't want to offend anybody. Cooper Flagg got the impression of me like he ain't really trying to be here to be all friendly, do kumbaya and play some
business.
It's more Giannis that way.
Yeah, it's business. Like, yo, man, let's get down to business. So, man, that alone, man, I'm sold.
Yeah.
People talk about aura and stuff like that. Sorry, Coach. People talk about aura and he walks in with a presence.
Yep.
He ain't walking and that's what you're talking about, where it's like he's walking in different. He ain't walking in to hang out with stuff. He about his business. You can come and chat with him, but he's still going to be about his business. Coach, you were saying
his defensive box plus or minus number is a 6.6. Just to give you some context, Ace Bailey, who is a pretty good defensive player, is a 1.3. Beyond's man, VJ Edgecombe, probably the best or regards one of the top perimeter defenders in college, is a 4.7. Cooper 6.6. Cooper Flagg makes a big difference for a team when he's playing basketball on the floor. And just that offensive versatility, offensive and defensive versatility to probably guard 1 through 5. Like, he probably has that kind of versatility. Those guys don't come around too often.
Yeah, I think it would give the Raptors, just to now shift focus to the Raptors specifically. If he was on the Raptors, he would give you a chance to work without several things being perfect. So, number one, on offense, we talked about his ability. He can definitely run an offense, or at least help run an offense for sure. Yep. So you can survive without having a true point guard on offense. When you have him, Scotty, Brandon, you have enough guys out there, but he alone, he's holding his own in year 1. Right? Like, and he might even excel in year, to be honest, he probably will excel in year 1. But like, at the same time, I know a lot of people are like, oh, well, he's in college, you gotta wait, you gotta wait. But yeah, fine. This is me waiting. Okay. But really, let's keep it a buck, right? It's kind of like the Giannis, or not the Giannis thing, the Wemby thing, where people are like, "Oh, wait." I'm like, defensively, he's there.
I don't think people realize how much freedom you get more in the NBA versus any other type of like basketball, any type of game around the world. Like, so if you're
freedom of space,
freedom of shot, freedom, the ability exactly to kind of be creative enough to kind of get your shot off in different ways, like. You're gonna be sitting there like, oh my gosh, it's like heaven, because at college is as restrictive as it gets, right? You don't want you here, you want you there. And the guys, when they get in that situation, when they get the NBA feel, it's like, oh my gosh, man. Like, my gosh, I feel like I'm like, the old days like Club Med or wherever, man. Sandals. Or sandals, I don't age myself, but sandals is probably the more ideal one. Wherever place they have, man. It's like, it's wonderful, man. Like,
Hey man, Club Med is still popping sometimes.
It's still popping. I don't know, man. I'm gonna date myself here, man.
So yeah, no, I hear you. I hear you. I think he is a special talent. I mean, there is several special talents, but he alone is a special talent. And then on the defensive end, it's just like between him and Scotty alone, especially like, and then you have Shed as well. Shed, former defensive player of the year, NCAA, right? That is now, and then Jacoby has shown that he at times can hold his own already. Year one is able to defend at times at least above, if not league average. So you now are, you may not have everyone's favorite type of player in the sense that he's not a center, but he's big enough and whatnot to just do a lot of different things. I would actually, if I were his coach, I wouldn't do it for like how Darko does it, but I would have like, okay, this game, we're going to have you guard point of attack. I just want to see what he can do. You know what I mean? And then the next game, just have like stretches of like 2 games at a time or 3 games just to collect data early on in the season to be like, how good is it? Because I'm just curious.
Well, here's the thing. If the foresight of this organization, they were able to get Cooper Flagg, what you could actually start creating with him, Barnes, Ingram, start creating. You remember back in the 90s, in this case here, Phil Jackson, the Bulls used to refer in this case here when they started kind of getting the length out there. They called them the Dobermans, right? So you have like 6'6" Jordan out there with 6'6".
You say Dobermans?
Dobermans, yeah, rough, yeah. They'd be getting after you. Pippen at 6'8". You will have Kukoc in this case at 6'11", and they just be pressing the hell out of you, right? And so like you can have, insert center Will Purdue. That's fine. He just sitting holding the rim, but those 4 dudes are just out there hawking you. And they had an earlier version with Horace. It was with Horace Grant. Like it just be like they're smothering you with what you get off half court. So if you think about the team you have right now, you could have some type of version of that with Scotty, Ingram, the length of Cooper Flagg, and even if you have even in that circumstance here, you get Jacoby who's like 6'5" and a long 6'5". You got tentacles out there, man.
Yes.
And you could play a lot more aggressive defense the way I think they would like to play.
It'd be a funky team. I know people are like, oh, the fit. I'm like, you just make it work.
Make it work. You don't pass up on talents like Flagg.
Yes.
Ever.
Yeah, I think what you do is you would just, in a way, in certain lines, you just, you would slide Ingram to number 2.
Yeah, you'd have to do that for sure.
And I think early in his career, he was playing 2 for the Lakers.
Yes, and he has maybe just enough juice to make it work, maybe, especially if you have Cooper Flagg. Anyone that can't make it work, they can pack their bags.
You can fit in or you can fit out.
Yes. So that's how I look at it. Coach, your final thoughts, and then we'll get Beyond's final thoughts. I've already kind of said my final thoughts, and then we'll get out of here.
Yeah, he's the number 1 pick without question. Whoever gets the number 1 pick, he becomes the franchise of that team. So New Orleans, sorry Zion, Flagg's the number 1 guy. Wizards, he's with Sarr, but Flagg's number 1. With us, it'll get interesting, and that's all I'll say.
No, he's it. I'm sorry. Yeah, no. You could call it it's a core building around a core. Cool, great. But that dude is the pillar. The second he walks through that door, whether it be from a marketing standpoint or otherwise. No offense to anyone else, but it's just like that dude. Yeah. That dude will have eyes on him, and that alone changes a lot of things.
Maybe next year they'll promote 2 people for All-Star games instead of 1.
That is true.
I'm trying to help you out, RJ, man. I'm trying.
That is true.
Hey man,
we
RJ,
could.
RJ ended up with a lot more votes, or a few more votes than some other folks. I'll just put it that way. So, like,
Yeah,
so,
it technically did.
so I think it was an interesting response by the fandom. I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, well, Blue Jays did
I'm
their
just saying,
job.
if the Raptors do end up with him, they're in a really good spot moving forward with the talent they do have.
100%. And that's not the only guy that we're going to be talking about. More guys on Draft Talk, but and keep these things kind of short and sweet. But overall, I think we're starting with Cooper Flagg. And we've talked about a lot of these top guys already briefly. This is a deeper dive. Cooper Flagg is definitely a special talent, and I think on both ends of the ball. And last time I checked, in general, two-way wings get it done in the NBA, especially if you're trying to win a championship these days. So yeah. With that being said, like, comment, subscribe. I didn't say it on the way in, but I am going to say it on the way out. Stay safe, stay well, take care, everyone, and stay tuned for Draft Talk. These are probably going to be coming out on Wednesdays, so it will be separate from our typical show. But yeah, either way, stay tuned for Draft Talk, and stay tuned on the lottery. I'm going to do a Tankathon simulation just to end it out here, just for fun.
Oh boy, here we go.
Well, that did not work too well. As of today, with me hitting the Tankathon odds, I want to hit it again, but I won't. It goes, Charlotte got number 1. Philly keeps their pick, and they got number 2. They moved up 5 spots. Brooklyn number 3. New Orleans number 4. Washington number 5. Washington is very sad right now. Utah also unlucky tank. With 6, and then there is us at number 7. We got bumped down 2 spots.
I just did it too, and I get number 7 as well.
Well,
okay, now you're forcing me now to kind of do it.
Leave
the podcast.
All right. We will save. Yeah.
Let's see if I can get it done, folks. Let's see here, man. Drum roll, please. Let's see here.
7.
6. Now I did it the other day, and I did it like about 15 times, and the third pick came out the most at all of them.
Yeah.
For lower than 5.
Actually, I just simmed it again. I got 7 again.
Yeah.
I just did it when he got 3rd.
Yeah, 3 is the one that comes.
Oh, I haven't even gone yet. Now I'm 8. I'm going down. Okay, folks, this is okay. Now I got 3rd. There you go. All right. So hopefully we do better in real life, folks. We will do one of those at the end of each Draft Talk pod. With that being said, like I said, like, comment, subscribe, have fun, and take care, people, and peace.